I have been waiting and knowing that this story was going to make sense in a full circle only 2.5, 3 years later.
The Department of Defense's COVID vaccine mandate is no more.
The COVID-19 vaccine mandate for members of the military will
The Defense
end.
Department has officially dropped the requirement for service members to get vaccinated for COVID-19. The Defense recently rescinded the vaccine mandate for military members.
New details as
The COVID-19 vaccine mandate for U.S. troops is going away. The Pentagon officially removed that mandate on Tuesday. Now, this comes after President Joe Biden.
For refusing the vaccine.
I knew it was going to come down the pipe at some point. We knew it was going to happen, but after 2+ years or however long it's been, the National Defense Authorization Act terminated the COVID-19 vaccine for military members.
Morning. My name's Catherine Arnett. I'm a Lance Corporal in the United States Marine Corps, and now my brain is blank. The closest person that I knew that served was my grandfather, my dad's side. I thought he was in the Army for the longest time, and 4 years ago it turns out he was in the Air Force. So that shows you how much I knew about the armed services. The uniform, honestly, the uniform of the Marines really caught my eye. My mother told me to join the Air Force, and I was like, yep, I'm going to do the exact opposite of that. So I went to the Marines, and just kind of figuring myself out a little bit. My MOS is 6672, and that's Aviation Supply Specialist. School is in Meridian, Mississippi at the Navy base there. Honestly, I think it's about a month course, but I was there for about 3 or 4 months because waiting period, getting picked up into the new class, and I think I graduated 3rd in my class. I think like the top 5 got to 100% pick where they got to go, but our instructors were really gracious and pretty much let everyone pick where they got to go. So yes, I did pick Iwakuni, Japan. I was torn because I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to pick Iwakuni, Japan, or am I literally going to pick home at the Joint Base right in Fort Worth, Texas? And I'm like, bruh, I got to go on an adventure. I tried to thwart the culture shock by just full immersion as soon as I landed here in Japan. Once I got to the Tokyo airport, I saw a bento box at the little, convenience store. And I'm like, that's the weirdest looking shit I have ever seen. I'm buying it and I'm eating the whole damn box. I overcame the culture shock as best as I could because food is a very awesome thing in life. So if I could get past the weird food, then, maybe everything else would come easy. And my biggest regret is not learning a lick of Japanese while I was out here. So word to the wise, learn the damn language of the country you're in. Because I feel like an absolute moron when I go out in town and I can't even communicate with them. It's pretty embarrassing. But Japanese culture is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Sea urchin. Not sea urchin. Pufferfish. The poisonous one. Yeah, that one. And just anything that's not labeled in English and that smells like fish whenever you open it. Yes, I do. But here we go.
But
I'm not allowed to reenlist right now. Well, I'm one of the unvaccinated swine. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in Congress, the Senate, headquarters Marine Corps going on that has basically prohibited our type from reenlisting, from promoting, from basically doing our jobs, really, to be quite frank. Officially got barred from my job in June of 2022, but ever since September of 2021, it was on the rocks. And I knew that I was going to have a very, very rough road ahead of me for that. So, yeah, I've been in 4.5 years about right now. And I made it to year 4, barely hanging on by a thread. August 2021, SECDEF memo came out. September of 2021, we were all pulled into an auditorium, said, hey, you have to get it. And these were the people who were like holdouts and everything. They informed us of our rights, our opportunity to do religious exemptions, right? I filed my religious exemption under the Catholic faith for not wanting to receive a vaccination that has abortion, fetal cells. Filed that in a timely manner with my wonderful chaplain, absolute blessing that he was and still is. I heard the denial back from my initial request in October of 2021. I appealed that denial in November of 2021, and I heard back from the final denial of that appeal in January of 2022. Yep, there were a lot of early on indicators that was going to say this was going to be an uphill battle with leadership and chain of command who says and is there to supposedly help you with all the administrative avenues that they offer. After the second denial, about a week later in January 2021, I don't remember the exact dates, I think it was late January 20th, 2022. Yes, January 20th, 2022. They came back to me with the first step of administrative separation, that you were going to be recommended or notified of separation at some point. And so it was a waiting game after that. I was in a state of uncertainty. I was in a state of, oh my gosh, when am I going to be separated? When do I have to say my final goodbyes? And it was about a waiting game for about 4 months. I wish I could remember it like that. It was just negative paperwork, negative counselings every other day, backlash from your shop, backlash from your chain of command, formalities, we're here to help you, but, providing nothing really to help. That just the whole state of uncertainty, really, with hard copies of negative counseling 6105s. A plethora. Not a single one. And then they were never able to, impugn me on work ethic or behavior or anything. I think they just wanted to get me to act up. And this is later, after April of 2022, that this kind of plays into more of it. But no. Long story short, nothing on my work ethic, nothing on executing my job. It's all due to the vaccine stuff. Sorry. So April 18th, my sergeant major, my commanding officer, is like, here's your 30-day letter to get the fuck out of the Marine Corps. I was in their office, and I respectfully deferred. I slid the paper back to them. You cannot kick me out for getting a vaccine that is going to be repealed and that cannot be forced or mandated if it's not signed by the president or anything. And, they pulled the whole sergeant major and rank thing. They're like, oh yeah, where's that in writing? I slid back the 30-day letter. Respectfully, I'm deferring. And I left the office. So I think that action right there, that began. That began a lot more paperwork. That began a lot more stonewalling. That began a lot more bring the hammer down on my head. Back in September of 2021, I had started a very long string of request masts, which is basically appealing to your direct commanding officer and addressing grievances, issues, concerns to him in person by means of formal, communication. And I had brought up all these issues, and I'm like, I will be fighting I will vouch for my job, I will vouch for my rights, and I will be fighting. Unfortunately, it was people outside of the squadron, mainly. There were a few pockets of helpful people at the squadron. One very loyal staff sergeant to me, a female mentor to me, honestly. She was excellent, but after everything kind of went sour, most communication, formal and informal, between myself and members of the squadron was pretty much severed. But yeah, it was mainly people outside of the squadron. I had already kind of been friends with civilians and gravitated more towards Navy cats a little bit more. So I started heavily relying on them. Oh, and of course the other unvaccinated people. My roommate, my former roommate. I don't remember exactly the month and date, actually. But whenever she moved to California to a new command, because she had gone through the whole religious accommodation process that I had, she ultimately did get it. Things were more stringent, more hard at a new command who knew nothing about her, and she felt the pressure and she got it. She called me up, she called all of her unvaccinated friends up. She was a little bit of a mess, but obviously we all took it in grace, and she fought, and she still fights, and she still informs her Marines, and she's still on the, plague rat side. But yeah, definitely finding those little pockets of unvaccinated individuals, making group chats and everything, just leaning on each other for support. I guess I just don't want to go into it too deeply, because it's probably how my off time was composed of either at friends' houses, researching, or I was volunteering in the community as a coach. I coached as a youth sports volunteer, pretty much doing every sport on base, you name it: softball, volleyball, soccer, flag football, anything really, basketball. From ages, 3 to 4 to 15. We're on a military installation, so they come from the military families. The higher-ups who are putting me through all this. That's correct. I started coaching in August of 2020. That was my first season to ever coach on base. It was more or less to really get out of the barracks and get volunteer hours. I didn't think much of it at that time. That was a soccer season, full soccer season. Come 2021, I pick up basketball because that was my favorite sport. Still kind of in it for the hours, but at that point, the kids knew me. I've been coaching. They recognized me. So I was like, oh, hey, what's up? Come March of 2021, I start to coach the softball team. Coaching the all-girls team was probably the life changer for me, because these girls were not only coming for practice, but subconsciously they were coming for mentorship, and I absolutely fell in love with that. That changed my life. It got me back to church. It got me back to cleaning myself up. It got me back to God and Jesus, really, because I'm like, I need to be able to set an example for these girls. Needless to say, they saved my life. So praise God for them. After softball season, the official softball season, my mentor, my coaching mentor, he took me under his wing, and we conducted off-season practice together for the entirety of 2021, all the way to winter. And after those softball seasons, I was coaching 3 softball teams, and then I did the summer programs. Then I commenced volleyball in November of 2022 to December of 2022. Great season. We came in second place. Go Shockwaves. Now, come January of 2023, not 2 weeks ago, I was barred from the sports program. Officially, it came from the director by email, and it came from my command by verbal order. You have been formally notified that you are not to attend any practices or games.
How did that affect you?
On the outside, water off a duck's back, right? My upper leadership involving extracurricular entities on this base, that's their prerogative, and that's their backhanded way of dealing with this. Should they be interfering with these things? No. They will do whatever means is necessary to enforce compliance or to flex their power, basically. If they want to meddle themselves in extracurricular activities and the personal lives of their Marines and sailors, that's on them and not me. In 4 days, I will be escorted and put on the Patriot Express aircraft on Saturday by military police force. Despite all my efforts, I'll be seeing myself out from this base by force for still not receiving the vaccine. And I can imagine we're about to talk about the NDAA bill and the Pentagon letter being signed. So. They did not acknowledge the Memorandum that came out back in September, November, whatever timeframe. And my leadership has made it very, very clear that they will not abide by the law when it comes to me. And we kind of just talked about why. So, yep, I brought up the Pentagon letter, I brought up the NDAA bill, I even emailed Headquarters Marine Corps and my entire 3rd MEF and Indo-Pacific Marine chain of command, all the way up to the CG. And then I got my email access revoked. So I did everything I could, appealed to every avenue that I could, asked for help, asked what could be done. All fallen on deaf ears. The Pentagon just signed that letter saying the vaccine mandate is rescinded and all negative paperwork associated with not receiving the vaccine is rescinded. Okay, goals and aspirations. I try not to think too much of the left getting out right now because, well, I hope there's still a fighting chance. But let's talk about right. I wanted to be a drill instructor. I came into the Marine Corps thinking that drill instructor was an MOS you could immediately get. So I graduated boot camp ready to be a drill instructor. Lo and behold, that's not the way it works. And actually my gunnery sergeant at my current command, he was the same way. So we mused about that. That's still the goal. Right now, I'm still active duty. I have until February 23rd of this year until I am formally seen out of the Marine Corps. That's my end of active service. And I'd probably get out or go Air Force. I'd like the outcome to be just let me do my damn job. Reinstate me to my work permissions and let me work. But, I think my leadership has a point to prove, and they're not going to let a little E3 Lance Corporal kick him around with court marshals and request masks, and they're not gonna let the logic be. They will do everything to stifle it.